Okay, good day from here. My name is Michael. I'm an accountant, and today I'm going to be talking about another very important topic in finance, or a very important subject in finance, and that is financial markets. The financial market. What is financial markets? A financial market brings together organizations and individuals that want to obtain finance and also organizations and individuals wishing to invest. This is a market that unifies both organizations and individuals that want to obtain finances and organizations and individuals that also want to invest in the market. So you are taking from one hand and you are giving to the other hand, or you are taking what they are giving and you are giving to the ones that want. So it's in and out. The organizations that want to and the individuals that want to invest, and individuals and organizations that want to finance. So the capital market can be classified as the financial market can be classified as capital markets and money markets. Capital markets and money markets. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the capital markets. I'm going to be focusing on the capital markets. The capital market can further be classified into the equity market and the bonds market. Now, when we talk about equity, what are we talking about? Equities are units of ownership in a business. They are units of ownership in a business. Then what is bond, or what are bonds? Bonds are debt instruments issued by governments, international organizations, and large companies. These are bonds. I come again. The equities are units of ownership in a business, while bonds are debt instruments issued by governments, international organizations, and large companies. Now, the capital market, talking about the capital markets are financial markets for primary and secondary issues, trading in long-term investments. The long-term investment here that we are talking about is the equities and the bonds. The equities and the bonds. The capital markets are both national, that is domestic, and international. Now, many countries have at least one stock market. Like in Nigeria, we have the stock exchange, the Nigerian Stock Exchange as a stock market in Nigeria. Once in a while, some bonds trade on the capital on these stock markets, but it's not their usual practice. Their usual practice, the main purpose of stock markets is to trade in shares of companies. Now, there is a primary market and there is a secondary market for shares. That's talking about shares. Now, the primary markets are for issues of new shares that companies use to raise cash. New shares this is used by companies to sell shares to investors for the very first time. So if I'm going to be raising shares for the very first time, you use this primary market, while the secondary market is for already existing shares to trade. Is a market used to trade in already existing shares. So the primary markets are therefore a source of new long-term capital for companies, governments, and other organizations, while the secondary market is used by investors to sell already existing shares. So the relationship between a primary market and a secondary market is that the primary market want to rely on a successful. So the primary market, a successful primary market relies on a large and liquid secondary market, Because when investors buy shares in the primary market, they want to be sure. They want to be sure that they can sell their investment at any time at a reasonable price in the secondary market. So let's look at the functions of a stock market. The stock market is a place, to begin with, is a place for buying and selling of shares in companies that apply to have their shares traded on the exchange and whose application is accepted. So it acts as both primary market and secondary market for shares. And in Nigeria, companies must obtain a listing for their shares and also apply to have their shares traded on the stock exchange. The major stock exchanges trade shares of domestic companies, but also the shares of some international companies as well. So the international stock markets consist mainly of national stock exchanges that also trade shares of some foreign companies as well. So an example of international stock markets is the New York Exchange, which owns Euronext, which in turn owns the national stock exchanges of France, Belgium, and Netherlands. That's talking about the international stock market. So let's look at the main functions of a stock exchange. One, it provides a system in which shares can be traded in a regulated manner. This regulated manner is in a bid to avoid insider trading, which is illegal as far as the trading is concerned. Number two, they enforce rules of business conduct on market participants to ensure fair dealings in shares. Number three, it ensures that there is an efficient system for providing new financial information about companies to investors in the market. And fourth, lastly, it provides a system for recording information about the prices at which shares are bought and sold and providing share price information to participants in the markets. Now let's look at the bond markets. The bond markets. They are just like shares, they are also domestic bond markets. Now, like I said before, bonds are debt instruments issued by governments, uh, international organizations, government agencies, and large companies. Most bonds are issued for a fixed period of time, which is at maturity, after which they are redeemed by the issuer, usually at face value. The face value talks about the price that is written on the bond certificate. That's the face value. During the time they are in issue, the issuer pays interest, fixed interest amounts to the bond holder, either once, twice, or quarterly, as the case may be, in each year at a fixed rate of interest. So investors can trade the bonds in a secondary bond market and so invest or disinvest at any time of their choice in this market. The bond markets are not accessible by small companies. Like I said, they are accessible by large companies. Like in Nigeria, for instance, the likes of Dangote can issue bonds. So with this, I hope you've been able to understand how the financial market operates. In my next video, I'll be talking about the money market, still under the financial markets. Thank you.